We're back with episode 55 the Guardian Project podcast. I'm your host, Andy.
Schfifty.
1, 2, 2.5.
14.
2.5. 55.
And I started my last class of grad school.
Okay.
This past week. And it's going to be a pretty grim semester. So I'm probably going to need to get a tutor.
A grim tutor? Good. And I'm your co-host, Mike Coyle. And did you know that Wizards of the Coast printed a new legendary commander in M21 that is a almost exact replica of Julius Caesar?
Are you just going to stab Caesar?
No.
No.
Vito Veni, Vito Vidi, Vito Vici. And if you don't know what that means Vito came, Vito saw, and Vito conquered.
By gaining life.
Yeah, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what you do.
What you say?
This is the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering.
But mostly Commander.
And before we start, we want to thank our patrons. We love all of you. We appreciate your support. If you want to support, you can head to patreon.com/guardianprojectpod.
Yeah. And if you're looking for other ways to support the podcast, we would love it if you would just drop a like, subscribe wherever you're listening to, drop a comment. We also have a TCG Player affiliate link. So if you hop on over to our website, www.guardianprojectpodcast.com, you can find that for all of your single and sealed purchases you are making on TCG Player. If you could use our link, it helps out the podcast a lot, and we do appreciate it.
We do. And I know that we haven't been saying it, but please support your LGSs. We've been seeing online there are some that are going out of business now,
yes.
Getting hit really hard. So we've been purchasing a lot of our cards through our LGSs. Fortunately, we have a pretty big collection, so between the two of us, we've been able to trade. But we are going to be streaming this coming Monday with Tap That MTG. We are doing Pauper Commander.
Yes.
I'm still deciding between the commanders that I've been looking at, but I might be playing green-blue elemental tribal, because you can use a common creature or an uncommon in Pauper Commander, and I'm thinking that I might use Risen Reef as my commander.
It's going to be strong.
I feel like it. I don't know if there's any synergy other than it's just an elemental,
right?
And I think that might just be enough to
ramp.
And there's Coyle and I were trying to figure out how many commanders or creatures there were, and I think when we looked on Scryfall there was like over 80 something. I was like, oh, that's plenty of options, because I still need to put lands in this deck.
I mean, lands are kind of important, I guess.
Right, so I'll be using my LGS to pick up those singles.
Yeah, same with me. I'm building Teamer Big Bears is what I'm calling it.
Teamer Big Bear. What's the commander again? It's from the Khans of Tarkir block, and I think it's like a colorless in the Teamer colors, and you can tap it to do something, right?
No. So it's literally just a 2/2 enters the battlefield, and you get a 4/4.
Just get a 4/4.
That's literally all the.
But you're in Teamer colors though, so it seems really fun.
It's in Teamer. There's some cards in there that are going to help me blink my 2/2 to get more 4/4s, and I have the card pulling up on my Architect list. However, you won't be able to find this on my Architect because it's currently a locked deck list.
Yeah, because you don't have it published yet because you're not sure that's the finished list.
I just want it to be a secret.
It's a secret.
It's Bear's Companion, 2 in Teamer.
2 in Teamer, so 5 total. So you get 6 power though out of that.
You get 6 power.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so check that out. We're going to order those from our LGS, so please support your LGS if you can. Right now, ours is doing also one of them. Is doing a raffle. If you buy $50 or more product, you get a ticket into a raffle for a framed full uncut sheet of War of the Spark.
Right.
So, and when I saw it, I said, oh, I didn't realize you guys, and I don't know why I didn't think it. So Rochester Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Sports Cards and Memorabilia.
There's no magic in that title.
But there's no magic in the title, but like, that's what we go there for. But I didn't even think about it, but they have so many like jerseys all over framed. And I go, oh, it's only been 3 years. And I guess I didn't think to ask. And they go, yeah, we could have framed your uncut sheet of War of the Spark. So I'm getting my uncut sheet of War of the Spark framed.
That's
so I'm really
wonderful.
excited. So I'll have pictures of that soon. They said it takes like 3 to 4 weeks. And so I dropped it off 2 weeks ago. So I'm excited to see that.
2 weeks away.
Only 2 weeks away. What are we talking about this week?
We have one main big topic we're going to talk about this week, and that is the color red. We're going to talk about what defines red in Magic, but then we're also going to talk about how do you do red outside of red. You know, we had a segment before. How do you do blue outside of blue? We're going to red now.
We're going to red. We're going to do one for each color. And I think we did blue like 5 or 6 episodes ago. So again, we polled everybody on Twitter and said, I guess we didn't actually poll. It wasn't a poll. We just said, can you tell us what red means to you? Can you define red? So here's a few things that people said. We'll read them. We'll each read them. So the first one was fun.
Yeah.
So it wasn't blue, which I think the first one was unfun.
Unfun. Yeah, this is the opposite.
So the first one was fun.
And the second one is it has the best got 'em cards in Magic.
They said better than white, but still bad.
This one I think I agree with the most.
So they said white, but still bad. And I think we know why, right?
Yeah,
so we'll break it down a little
absolutely.
further, right?
This next one, excuse me while I move away from my microphone for a second. All the fireballs!
Yeah, that was in all caps with exclamation points. They said it lacks card draw. Fair enough.
Yeah,
okay.
That's very true.
Not a ton of card draw.
There's some pros to it. We got haste, instant sorcery matters, and artifact destruction.
And then lastly, they said its primary strategy is that it generally works better in a 20 life format than it does in a 40 life format, which I agree with.
Yeah, I mean it's the common saying where, you know, no offense to all you modern burn players out there, but all you have to do is count to 20.
You just have to count to 20
by
right?
threes. To be fair, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, 4 lightning bolts, a couple of these. You know, you still have some swingy, hasty creatures. In Commander, it doesn't really work that well. You get outclassed pretty quickly. Torbran, I think, sometimes can be an exception because it blows up the whole board.
Sure.
We've seen Ashling the Pilgrim can do crazy things if you give it time. But for the most part, you struggle with some of the things that we mentioned here, but I think I agree. It does have some of the best got 'em cards. I have got before.
I've definitely got.
So we took those descriptions and then we wanted to figure out a couple of categories, right? So we just wanted to categorize some of these things, the benefits of red, what we think red does really well. So those are direct damage, haste, randomness. So there are some random or impulsiveness. You call it impulsiveness as well. Wheels, and then red does cheats things into play really well. So we looked to find cards that weren't red in these categories.
Yeah,
to see if you could play red, but not in red.
Playing red. So this is Atraxa colors, which is Witchmaw. So how to play red in Witchmaw.
If you had asked me what that 4-color combination.
Yeah, 4-color pairing.
Is it 4-color pairing?
Is it? Is it called
pairing
2-color
only
pairing?
for? Yes.
You can pair 2 couples and then you get 4. You can have 4 pairs if they're all
actual fruit, like
right.
just 4 pairs. You just
green.
Yeah.
It's just a mono green then.
So these 4 colors are all but red.
That's correct. that is Witchmaw, which is named after the Nephilim. I think the Nephilim was the first time that the 4-color combinations got names.
Yep. There's one called Your Tiller.
It sure.
That's the only one that I remember.
That's Sans Green.
Is that the one that makes like? Is that the one that I don't know.
Your Tiller Nephilim is the one that I think brings back things from the graveyard tapped and attacking.
But that's not our episode this week.
No,
so
it's
now
not.
that we figured out 2 of the names that exclude other colors.
Hey, what's got 2 wheels and their CEO drove off a cliff on one?
Segway.
Hey.
Oh my god. Did we talk about this last week? We did.
Ooh, it might have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Every week.
So we used to do updates on Howie Mandel. Now it's Segway updates.
We're just gonna keep talking about segways every week.
So we just need. So once a week we have to tweet out a GIF of a Segway. So direct damage is what we're going to start with first. So there are some cards that do direct damage, not in red. Notably, one that I think is the most red of the direct damages, in my opinion, that works that works really well in Commander, is Hurricane. So it is green, X and green. It deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Okay, well, I don't mind flyers. They're there.
It's actually a super good win card if you have a higher life total than your opponents.
And you're in green, where you make all the mana.
Mm-hmm.
You just play your Nyx Bloom Ancient and Nick throw Shrine of Nyx and I Hurricane for 20. Oh, I just lost the direct damage in green.
Well, I think people are playing this a lot in the new Sultai X Spells Matters card from the...
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the only deck that I built from the new Commander set was Nakara and Yannick, so I didn't even look at the other, I guess at the supporting spells, but yeah, seems pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then we have another direct damage in green in Hornet Sting. Single green to deal 1 damage to target creature player.
That seems underwhelming.
But it's green.
It's also a common.
It from Magic 11,
That's
and then
right.
it's also a foil from Mystery Boosters.
I'm going to have to look through my mystery boosters. Let's see if we got a Hornet Sting.
I'm sure. I mean, at common, you probably got one. You opened what, 2 boxes?
Yes.
Yeah, you probably have a Hornet Sting.
I mean, it's in the foil slot.
Oh.
And every single card in
you're
that
right.
set is mythic rarity.
Every card.
Every card in mystery boosters is mythic rarity. Every single one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's how big the sheet was for every single slot.
Oh. Gotcha.
Yep.
So, if you want some direct damage, you in green, there you go.
Yeah. If only you could play Gut Shot.
But you can't.
That's red.
Did you know that there's a direct damage in blue?
What's the direct damage in blue?
Psionic Blast. 2 in a blue, instant. You deal 4 damage to target creature or player, but then you take 2 damage.
That's okay. I'm fine with that.
I would like to Psionic Blast somebody for the last little bit of their life total too.
God.
That would feel so red. You're like, oh, I'm just playing mono blue Baral. You're like, oh, this dude's just playing counter spells.
Mm-hmm.
It's like counter, counter, counter. Oh, you have 2 life left? Psionic Blast.
How did you get them to that 2 life, Andy?
Well, you counter, counter, counter.
I got that part.
You heard that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But you probably had out like, there's a blue card that's been like printed like 14 times. It's
Okay.
called Tailrands, guys.
No, that's actually true.
I
Yes.
know. So you had that out, and then you counter, counter, counter.
That's fair.
So you got a couple of Drakes. So I got you down.
Yeah, and then you get that like hotline bling going down. You can kill your opponent that way.
Psionic Blast.
Yeah, hotline bling.
You still make another bird, or is it a Drake? You make
Drake,
Drakes.
2/2 flying Drake. Yeah,
So you got these Drakes, and then Talrand instead is just like, I'm going to think about this and blast you psionically.
but
This person looks like they have a really bad headache, or they drank their Speedy Freeze way too fast.
I think this is supposed to be Jace.
This is not Jace. No, this is from Time Spiral. This is before Jace.
It just reminds me of.
This guy has jawline is ginormous.
Have you seen Jace Cunning Castaway?
I've seen his shoulder, but I don't know if I've looked at his.
You've seen his shoulder, his pec, his bicep.
You don't see his full pack.
Not his full pack.
All right, Jace, Cunning, Cast Away.
So the reason I say that is Psionic Blast reminds me of like Jace's origin story with Alhamret, where he had to like get into Alhamret's brain and fight him in his brain, but he was taking damage while he was fighting him in his brain. Don't fight a Sphinx in his brain.
And Jace Cunning Castaway he just looks like he's like looking into the sun and just really wished he had sunglasses. He doesn't look like he has a headache. Psionic Blast definitely has a headache.
I'm going to be honest. When you zoom in on his face, he just looks skinny. He doesn't actually look buff. He doesn't have shoulders. He has no shoulders.
I didn't know Jace had like 4 earrings.
Is
this just on Ixalan?
No, I think actually it is everywhere. I don't think he got earrings on Ixalan. I don't think. It's like he got a Gorgon girlfriend. He got 4 earrings. Parents aren't happy.
Yeah. Yeah, so Psionic Blast is definitely not Jace. All right, I'm gonna put a hard disagree with you on Psionic Blast being Jace. But this person definitely drank their Slurpee too quickly.
Oh yeah.
And I feel this picture.
Yeah. That is a hard headache.
That, or they just ate or they're like in a work meeting and someone said like the sixth dumb thing and they're just like, are you kidding me right now? I'm sitting in this room.
Oh, in the room?
They're doing this.
Wow.
Well, maybe they're on Zoom. They're in a Zoom meeting and this person just like looked away and is like, oh, Lord, help me.
Oh,
like, help me get through the rest of this day. That's what he's saying right now.
I need some Psionic Blast.
And that's Psionic Blast. And those are the direct damage cards that I thought were interesting and I liked.
Absolutely.
So, haste.
Yeah. Haste is a
post-haste.
Well, we'll talk about post-haste once we're done with haste.
Okay.
Yeah. So haste, it's an evergreen keyword. Anything can have haste, right? Haste is very red. It's a very, very red ability.
I think it's red and then a secondary in green and black.
Yes.
White, I think every color has had it. When I did the Scryfall search, it's just not primary.
Correct. So I think Wizards of the Coast does that on purpose with all these evergreen keywords, giving the ability to have it in everything, although I can't. No, there's instance. I was going to say I can't think of a black card that has vigilance, but there's definitely black cards that have vigilance out there. So, but anyway, so haste. So if you don't know what haste is, so there's this little thing called summoning sickness. Is when a creature comes onto the battlefield, it cannot attack the same turn or activate any abilities that require it to tap. Haste allows you to do that the turn that it comes out. I am sorry for all of you very distinguished Magic players that just had to listen to me describe the keyword haste. So some of the cards outside of red that are going to give your haste. So there's a lot of like onesie twosie artifacts, and I didn't really want to focus on artifacts just because artifacts you can play them in any color. You have your Swiftfoot Boots and your Lightning Greaves and Hall of the Bandit Lord that will all grant haste to your creatures when you equip them. And maybe you can abuse that in a color like white. So white barely has anything that goes into haste, but the other day I actually got destroyed.
Wrecked. It was glorious.
24 damage all in one turn by an Odric Lunarch Marshal. So
I'm laughing a little too hard about that because I was afraid it was coming at me.
I thought for sure. I put out a dissipation field that says whenever a creature deals damage to you, return that creature to its owner's hand. I thought for sure I'm going to get at least one more turn. This is going to be great. No, 24 hasty damage for my 24 life total with 0 blockers up. So Odric Lunarch Marshal, 3 and a white. You get a 3/3 that says at the beginning of each combat, all your creatures gain all keywords that any of your creatures would have. He was able to equip like Swiftfoot Boots to one of his creatures, give all of his creatures haste with Odric, and swing out. So I really wanted to focus on these abilities to give all of your creatures haste and not just an individual creature haste. Did you know that there's multiple slivers that give all slivers haste? There's a green sliver that gives all slivers haste?
Is that Gemhide?
It's Reflex Sliver.
I didn't know. I don't have a slivers deck. I feel like if I did, I would know all the sliver names
by heart.
Right?
Give them all nicknames. So Reflex.
This one's Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
Can we just say real quick, Gemhide Sliver, it makes it so they tap to add 1 mana of any color. So it's completely off. But it's still green.
But if you had that
I was right in the color.
If you had that one and Reflex Sliver, then the slivers that come out on the battlefield the same turn, they could tap for a mana.
It's like they have a hive mind. Okay. Haste.
Yeah. The big one is definitely Concordant Crossroads in mono green. 1 green. It's a world enchantment, which isn't a thing anymore, but it affects all creatures, and all creatures have haste. Period.
Yeah, I don't own one, and I really want one.
I don't think it's reserve list.
No.
So it would be cool to see this reprinted in Commander Legends coming up this year. I think it would be appropriate.
Are we going to be right again? We were knocking them all out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
We're going to be right. We're always right.
Except for anything that we've ever said that was wrong on this podcast, that we don't count.
Those ones don't count. And if you bring those up, you're wrong. So there's a few other onesie twosie things where you can get in that I found that I just thought were interesting. Instill Energy is a 1 green aura. It says enchanted creature has haste. You can pay 0 to untap enchanted creature. Activate this ability only during your turn and only once each turn. That card seems like way crazy good, and I've never seen it played before. A 1 green enchantment that gives haste, and you can get to free untap. I mean, this should be played in all of the pod decks and all that kind of stuff, where you have to tap your creature to sacrifice something else, and you can untap it and do another sacrifice. So that was just an interesting card that I found that I wanted to mention that I think might make it into our next 10 under 10 episode if we do one.
Yeah.
Instill Energy is going to go in there. I just decided it.
Instill Energy is going into 10 under 10. All right. Well, you've wrote 1/10 of the show, so thank you so much.
9 more to go.
Yeah. We just need 9 more, so that episode is on its way to being written.
Woo!
There's a lot of planeswalkers that make it so that things have haste. So we didn't really count all those, like the Nissas that can animate things, give things haste. But recently, and this one is a little segue here off of the or derail. Yeah, derail.
Sure.
That's what I do. Liliana, Waker of the Dead, the newest Liliana. So her minus does give haste. I got that to happen once since I've been drafting Core Set 2021.
Okay.
Still lost, but I wanted to get that emblem. It says at the beginning of combat, in turn, put a creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield and it gains haste. You got haste.
Yeah.
In a recent set in non-red. So
for sure.
That was not black gets it, so I get it.
Right.
It feels really good. That should be played in Commander decks.
And that's actually very unique even for black because you get to keep the creature. Because there's a lot of like unearth and all that kind of stuff where you have to sacrifice it at the end.
Yeah. This emblem feels very red. It's black because you're reanimating, but red with the haste I get. But it just feels red. Like red could get something like this if there was like some crazy downside. Or if they added something random to it, like select a creature at random from a graveyard. If it's not your creature, you
give it to your opponent. Your opponent gets it, and it comes back with haste. Reanimate random creature from a graveyard into their controller's
No, you get it for that turn, but if it's not your creature, at end of turn, give it to them. That'd be really cool.
That would be cool.
That's very red. All right, Wizards, make that happen.
Please and thank you.
All right, back to you.
I mean, I only had one other. 1,000-Year Elixir again, another artifact.
We could talk about 9,000 cards, but this time we said let's not talk about 800 cards, right? Because we totally want to.
So there isn't many other global haste enablers. So if you're looking for global haste, it's either
not in red at least.
It's going to be Concordant Crossroads, or you're going to play red, or artifacts. So
yeah. All right. So the next category is randomness, or it's got some variability, right? So there's some issues here, or impulsiveness. So cards like Gamble, so you can tutor for a card, put it in your hand, but then you have to discard a card at random. Yeah. You're like, please don't. And I know we've said it on the podcast before. You put the card in your hand and then you stick it in the graveyard.
Yes.
I've recently been doing a lot better where I actually get to keep that card that I tutored for, which feels really good.
I mean, I think that's just your opinion that you get to keep it, and that's better because mono red Entomb is my favorite card. That's a Gamble. That's what I call it. Mono red Entomb. Just put it in your graveyard.
It's really good for a Duretti deck.
Yeah, it is.
In mono red. So things that have randomness built into them but aren't red that I really like, and I think are cards that you could play to feel like you're playing with the energy of red, is like a card like Deadbridge Chant. So when it enters the battlefield, you mill 10 cards. So this has been a red to say mill 10 instead of put the top 10 from your library into graveyard.
That's good.
So it's 4 black-green. You mill 10 cards. So you put them from your graveyard into your library. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you choose a card at random in your graveyard. If it's a creature, stick it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it back in your hand. This feels so red. But, I mean, I get that it's black-green. But I would play this if I was trying to play with that red energy feel. I think I run this in my Gerard Golgari Lichlord deck, or at least I used to.
Yeah. I guess the one comparison I would make from Gamble to Deathbridge Chant and it's something that you should learn as a deck builder is gamble that random discard is meant to be a downside, but you can turn it into a good side. And that's what Deathbridge Chant. I mean, obviously the colors are a lot better in Deathbridge Chant in order to turn that into an upside, but keep thinking about that. When a card has a downside, think about how can I make that downside a good side?
Downside, good side.
Downside is the good side.
Right, because in this you're playing with your graveyard. If you're playing Gamble, there's a chance that you have stuff that cares about your graveyard. Like if you're playing that in red, you are likely playing something that can cast a spell from your graveyard.
Yeah.
Underworld Breach.
Such a good card.
Or you're playing the card that has
Past in Flames.
Thank you.
I knew, and I couldn't think of it myself for a second there.
I was like, I could picture it, and I can't think of it. So the impulsiveness is not so bad, right? So I like Deathbridge Chant. And then another one that I really liked is also fairly new, Crystalline Giant. So it's the 3/3 artifact creature that has at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose a kind of counter at random that could be put on Crystalline Giant, and then put that counter on it. So you can give it it's the keyword counters, right? Flying, first strike, death touch, expert, just bleh counters. You put one at random. So it could work out in your favor, or it might be the one that you're like, that's the only one that I didn't want.
Yeah.
You're like, if I can get flying or lifelink or double strike, I could win this game or something, I just don't want vigilance, and it's vigilance.
Well, at least it doesn't tap, right?
But that's probably the most red I've ever felt. We're like, I just need this one thing that just don't. Oh, my coin flip didn't work out in my favor. I guess I don't win now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess it happens.
It happens, right?
All those Rakdos Showstopper players out there where you have to flip a coin for every creature when Rakdos enters the battlefield, for every non-demon. Sorry.
Yeah, I drafted that when they had the cube draft on Arena, and I said no. I kept drafting Mythic or the Legendary, the Historic deck, and I go, oh, do I play Rakdos? I played Rakdos. I killed 3 of my creatures, and they lost none. I was so mad.
Oh my gosh.
So also very red, but that card actually is red. So those are the cards that I thought were important.
Yeah, just
that I liked as random.
Just a quick word on why we did not go over chaos cards in randomness.
Yeah.
They don't exist outside of red other than maybe the only thing I could think of, and I literally just think of it. I literally just think
of this.
So the lockout card that you play in your Lavinia deck,
Knowledge Pool
would probably be the only one that I could think of, at least off the top of my head, that's chaos outside of red. But a majority of people don't enjoy playing against chaos unless everyone's playing chaos or something.
I mean, Eye of the Storm is blue, and that's the one that whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, you copy that, and then every other one that's been
yeah, each other player gets a copy of it.
For the most part, it's a feel bad to play against it. No one really enjoys this.
I mean, I guess if everyone's playing like just a Timmy deck or something where you just put out a bunch of creatures and you're just there to socialize and magic is just on the side, maybe chaos is okay. But yeah, that's why we didn't mention it for the randomness portion. So if you're wondering why, that would be why.
That Thieves Auction kind of feels like that because you might not get your stuff back. The only card that I'm cool with the only deck I'm cool with Thieves Auction being in is Zedru.
Oh, well, that just makes sense.
That makes sense, but and I think we played you and I played in a Zedru pod with that card once. That was cool, and we were like, all right, this is fine because that deck got to do all its things. But
have you ever been Warp World before?
Which one is Warp World?
Each player shuffles all permanents he or she owns into his or her library, then reveals that many cards from the top of his or her library. Each player puts all artifact, creature, and land cards revealed this way onto the battlefield, then does the same for enchantment cards, then puts all cards revealed this way that weren't put on the battlefield on the bottom.
So you could lose all your lands.
You could lose all your lands. The one time this happened to me, I won the game, though, so it was okay.
I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
That happens. Yeah, so chaos cards do belong in this category as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. Andy, 5 minutes before. I'm not talking about chaos cards.
It's so funny because we get the agenda together and he goes, well, where's chaos? And I was like, fine.
I said, I'm going to talk about it, whether you put it on the agenda or not. And I did. And it's not on the agenda for all you listeners out there.
It's not. It really didn't make it onto the agenda. Speaking of wheels.
I mean, I loved that transition. I just wanted to make sure that I responded the same way everyone else responds to my puns. It was great. It was the best.
So we're going to talk about wheels. So in Red, traditionally, you actually discard your hand and you draw cards, right? So you've got Wheel of Fortune, Magus of the Wheel. You discard your hand, you draw 7. Magus of the Wheel has that as an activated ability. But there's also, we refer to them as wheel cards in blue. When you discard your hand, or and then you draw cards equal to the greatest number discarded, like a windfall.
Yep.
Or cards where you shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library and then draw 7. I think Echo of Aeons does that. There's a lot, and then but Red and Blue do, they do that. We were talking about this earlier when we were preparing for the show, and I said, well, wheels is hard because wheels just feels is it, right? It's in 2 colors. You get it a lot in red, you get it a lot in blue. And so we said, well, how can you do wheels not necessarily in red and blue? But we're going to talk about the first one, which is blue, but it also adds black.
Sure.
So you got Whispering Madness, which I think is a really underplayed card. And it has a really cool mechanic that also is never, ever seen unless you're playing my Ravnica cube and then you see it and Coyle wipes the floor with everyone with it.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end. So Whispering Madness, 2, a blue and a black. Each player discards their hand and draws cards equal to the greatest number discarded. So it's Windfall, but it has Cipher. You may exile this spell encoded on a creature. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, you can cast the spell again. So if you put it on an unblockable, or just a flyer, or I guess if they have no blockers, you just get to keep wheeling. This is really good. This was reprinted into a commander set. I have literally never played against Whispering Madness.
There are people who will play this in CEDH because it's repeatable wheel.
Okay.
And if you have repeatable combat, then I think
like Najeela?
I think it's played in Najeela.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Najeela will throw out like Narset, new Narset, 3-mana Narset.
Yeah.
And then Whispering Madness, make sure no one has any cards in their hand, and then go off and win.
Yeah, really nice person.
It's CEDH. They're
I get it.
Trying to win the
I
game.
know. To be fair, I played my Locust God. See, this feels very Locust God, right? And I was trying to not just go, oh well, the Locust God. The Locust God, I put Narset Parter Veils in there, and I did wheel one time, and never again. I have never seen defeated faces, and it was at our Commander League, so at least it was a little higher power. But there was someone who had like 18 cards in their hand, and it actually, you feel bad doing it. And I said, I did it once, never again. And I've sat down with that wheel deck, and they were like, do you still have Narset in there? And I was like, no, Narset's out. I even got a foil Narset for that when they were like real expensive. And then I said, no, this isn't okay.
That's interesting because no one ever asked me if I took Notion Thief out of my wheels deck.
Well, I can't play Notion Thief in this deck.
Right.
In that deck, but
because I also did that at Gamers.
Yeah, but I get it.
Yeah. It was just, it didn't feel great.
No, it actually feels bad. So I won't play cards like that. So Whispering Madness, but we have the only other one that has blue in it. Emergency Powers. It's Azorius. So it's a wheel. Each player does it. They shuffle their hand and graveyard into the library and they draw 7. But if you did this on your main phase, you then get to put a permanent card with CMC 7 or less onto the battlefield. I love this card. It's just really expensive. So that's why I don't think it's played that often.
Yeah, in fact, not that we're going to move on to the next subject, but that also allows you to cheat a card out from your hand. Spoilers.
Wow, we're double dipping on our cards here. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Wow.
It's like we planned it.
We do plan these. If you think we don't put planning into these episodes, you're wrong. I know I've called the audience wrong at least twice already.
Please don't
during
stop
this.
listening to our show.
Hashtag ban worm coil engine, but spell it my way. Don't actually ban worm coil engine. It's not a broken card. Okay. Do you mind if I talk about the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's mono black, so dark deal.
Mm-hmm.
Dark deal, 2 and a black. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards -1. So this does play into like the Wheel of Fortune effect of discarding your hand into your graveyard in case you want to do something with your graveyard later. Which obviously in black maybe works a lot better than it would in red, although red does have a lot of opportunities to work it out. And everyone gets -1 card. So
They're just going to work it out.
you just got to work it out.
Now work it out.
Work it out. Work it out.
And then the last one we have here is Boros. Did you think there was Boros Wheels? Because that's what I play. Boros Wheels and Feather. Feels good every single time playing this card, though. Heartwarming Redemption. 2 white and red. You discard the cards in your hand, draw that many +1, and then you gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. I just love this card.
Fire Song and Sun Speaker staple.
I would argue it's also one for Feather, but I don't think it is. But I want to be able to wheel because I need more cards in my hand.
Absolutely. And you get more cards than the giant hand that you already have in Feather.
You just cast the spell in Feather, so it's cast and put into exile, then wheel, so you still get those back.
Yeah.
Then you have less cards in hand, but they replaced it if those are draw card spells that might not draw another card.
Very true. And I know you've had hands of like 10 lands in that deck before, so
I have. And sometimes you just need to get rid of them for
them
7 spells that are good.
Yeah.
For Feather.
Have you considered running, is it Tectonic Reformation, that enchantment where you can cycle?
All lands have cycling or whatever?
All lands have cycling red for a red?
Yeah, I haven't touched that deck in a little bit. Like, I just haven't added anything. It's probably worth it.
I think it's a 3-drop or a 2-drop enchantment.
I don't know. It was just reprinted, though.
It was just printed for the first time. Modern Horizons.
No, I'm pretty sure that was reprinted in the Gavi Nest Warden deck.
Oh, you're right. You're totally right. Because they reprinted all the cycling cards besides Astral Shift? Drift. The one from Modern Horizons they reprinted. The older one they didn't reprint. Astral Slide.
Tectonic Reformation is from... Yeah, it was in these. It's 2 enchantment for 1 and a red. Each land in your hand has cycling for a red, and then itself has cycling.
Astral Slide is the older one of the two between Astral Slide and Astral Drift.
Yeah, the Ikoria Commander set symbol. I wasn't sure. I was looking at it. I was like, this is not Ikoria. Oh, because it's Ikoria Commander.
Ikoria Commander.
Ikoria Commander. So yeah, no, that's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Then we have one more category on this.
Yes. So this last category is near and dear to my heart because I have a deck that does this a lot. It's called Cheating Things into Play. So specifically, cheating things from your hand into play is what I wanted to focus on because that's what red does. So it plays things like Sneak Attack, which is an enchantment where you can pay 1 red, put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield. You have to sacrifice it at the end of combat. It also gains haste, by the way.
Wow.
So yeah, cards like that. The new Perforos has a Sneak Attack ability on it. Planebound Accomplice does the same thing, but with Planeswalkers. And then there is the sorcery that I can't... Through the Breach. Through the Breach does the same thing at sorcery.
Through the Fire and the Flames.
We carry on.
We carry on.
Absolutely. So, how are you going to cheat things into play outside of red? First, we'll do the easy one. Colorless. There is an artifact called Quicksilver Amulet. So for 4 mana, you get an artifact that says pay 4 and tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield.
If only that could just be your commander.
You found a deck where it was
listed as the commander. So I was doing research the other day and I came upon a deck and it just says cheat things into play or whatever. And then the commander was Quicksilver Amulet. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be...
what format is that? So there's Pauper Commander. Is this just...
This is Quicksilver Amulet is your commander.
Is this just...
Commander.
This is just free for all. Anything can be your commander.
I'm going to do like a basic island as my commander, the strongest card in Magic the Gathering.
If any card... That should be a topic. If any card could be your commander, what deck would we think would be the strongest.
I wanted to compare the mana cost here real quick because so it was Quicksilver Amulet costs 4 and it costs 4 to activate. Perforos Bronze Blooded, the new one, costs 5 and costs 3 to activate. So it's the exact same amount of mana. You have to use red for Perforos.
But different turns though, because you could do it sooner with this. Perforos can't come out unless you're ramping.
I guess I'm assuming if you can untap with 8 mana, you can do it all in one turn kind of deal, I guess. But you do have to sacrifice at the end for Perforos Bronze Blooded, but they do gain haste with Perforos Bronze Blooded.
Just put a creature in with haste.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So the great part with Quicksilver Amulet is you can activate it on the turn right before yours so that, it only has Summoning Sickness for a moment.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the Commander Advisory Group to take this up and say, the Guardian Project Podcast really wants Quicksilver Amulet legal as a commander. Mm-hmm. Can you make this happen?
And then the next day, everyone will receive an email that says Quicksilver Amulet now banned in Commander.
No, they're going to receive an email that says the Guardian Project Podcast has now been banned from Magic for ruining the format.
I'm still going to play. You can't stop me. So next card I want to talk about. This one is actually a little bit of group love going on. Not group hug, group love. And this is actually, honestly, and I don't know if you know this about me.
I don't even know where we're going.
You
and what
calm
card
down.
On the
You
agenda
calm
this
down
is.
over there. This is actually one of my favorite characters from all of Magic lore. However, this is the worst version of this character. Can you guess who it is?
Okay.
The real one is...
Wait, is it based on the story where they go, oh, look?
No, it's not.
Muldrotha.
It's not. It's not. This character is not in the new Dominaria story.
Is it from Dominaria?
Yes. This character is from Dominaria. I don't know.
Shoot. I don't know.
So originally, I'll say she was a mono black card. And when you shift your planes or time shift and whatever the crazy sets
Planar
chaos,
yeah,
she turned blue.
Oh, braids.
So I like braids when she was part of the Cabal, but you can't play her in Commander.
She's crazy in both.
But she's actually pretty sane when she's blue. She's not evil.
Conjure Adept.
Conjure Adept. Okay. Yeah. So Braids Conjure Adept, 2 blue says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may put an artifact, creature, or land card from his or her hand into play. So again, this is group love because everyone gets to do it.
Except when we played with the guys from Commander Social and Ryan Green did not get to do it because
I killed it every single time because I was playing a Planeswalker deck and this card does not say Planeswalker anywhere on its text.
I put a free Crater Hoof on turn 3. 4, whatever it was. It didn't do much, but I did get to do it. I swung it at you before you blew it up.
Yeah, you hit me for 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
It hurt. It hurt for 7.
And it's not red, and it's cheating stuff into play.
Yeah. So if you are playing Braids Conjure Adept, I would recommend that you get something that allows you to play Flash and flash out Braids right before your turn, and you get the first advantage of it, at least.
Yeah.
Last card I have on this list, a mono green card called Elvish Piper. So for 3 and a green, you get an Elf Shaman 1/1 that says pay a green and tap it. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. So doesn't have haste. It is a tap ability, so you won't be able to do it the first turn that it comes out. It's a 1/1. It's very easily killable. But yeah, you can cheat stuff out at instant speed. The one thing I did want to mention with all of these, so Braids is only a one-time upkeep. Quicksilver Amulet and Elvish Piper are both tap abilities. So you can only do them once per turn, where in mono red, you got your sneak attacks and your Perforos. You can do it multiple times. However, you get to keep the creatures with these other colors where you don't in red.
I mean, there's one that I really like, which I actually found out when we were doing the research for this. And I didn't even know the card existed from Mirage. Real old. It's called Lure of Prey. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 green for an instant. Play this only if an opponent cast a creature spell this turn. And it just says put a green creature card from your hand into play. I mean, I'll play that.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a mono green deck, chances are other people are going to play creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And in green, you usually have a lot of mana. So put out something that you don't have the mana for. Like you can stick a Nyxbloom Ancient out at instant speed at the end of someone's turn.
Oh, yeah.
And then untap on your turn with a ton of mana. So Yeah, red is pretty good at cheating things out. Like black can do it right because it can reanimate. I mean, it can do all that stuff, but it felt very red to put stuff into play that has haste or to do it at a time that is going to be beneficial for you, but you might then have a downside. So
right. How do I turn my creature that's in my hand into another copy of Lightning Bolt? That's what Sneak Attack's doing for you.
So those are the five categories that we have of cards that we felt embodied red, but just not in red.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell us about what cards you would play in a non-red deck that you think embodies red. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, like what's your most hasty, aggressive, bolt you in the face Witchmaw deck? Witchmaw legal deck. No red. This is
Sans red.
This is sans red every month except October year 2020.
You just got to play like a fight deck. I want a fight card that has trample.
They have it.
They do. I guess
no, it doesn't have trample.
That's just deals damage and then any excess goes over. It's trample.
If
right?
if your creature has trample, then the excess goes over on that fight. It's ram through.
Oh, ram through does. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't give the trample.
It does not. But it's a super, super good card.
I would like to see more ram through style cards. I think they're giving more of the burn with trample. This spell has trample. I like that this spell has, we run it in the cube, that black card. This spell has death touch.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all your instants and sorceries have death touch. That one's in Ravnica Allegiance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I put that in the Ravnica cube, and you have to get the burn spells to go with it. So chances are you're in red black. It really only fits red black.
Yep.
But
even though I think it's an Orzhov card technically.
No, I think it's Pestilent Spirit, and I think it's mono black.
Well, it is mono black, but I think like if it was associated with a guild in this like in the world.
Yeah, I guess you could do something where like this creature gains, like target creature gets +1/+0, but then it has death touch. So unless it's dealing damage, it doesn't actually kill it. So
oh right.
I do have a card that deals damage in white in the cube. It deals damage. It deals 3 damage to a tap creature, 5 to them if you cast with Addendum. But yeah, so anyway, tell us about your reddest cards, the reddest of red. And now,
if you tweet at us and just tweet like a picture of a basic mountain, I will follow you and retweet you and like you, and we'll hang out.
But if they do it though, it should be, fun fact, a mountain from Arabian Nights, the most printed basic land. Because Arabian Nights only printed mountains. They didn't print the rest of the basic land cycle.
Oh, really?
Aha.
I had no idea.
So you can, if you wanted to know which basic was most reprinted ever in the history of all, it's mountain, because they didn't put them all in Arabian Nights.
Interesting.
So let's talk about. Do you want to talk about a red commander? No,
I don't. I'm still building that one.
We're going to talk about.
Yes, I would like to talk about one of my brand new decks, which it will sit opposite of one of Andy's relatively new decks, which is Vorl the Hallclade. My deck, Roalesk Apex Hybrid. That's right. We got the Guardian Project up in here. Both decks built.
Boom.
We got it. So anyway, so as everyone may know at this point in time, the Commander Advisory Committee, as well as the Commander Rules,
the Rules Committee Advisory Group. Yeah,
Rules Committee and Advisory Group have made a change to Commander. We talked about it last week, 2 weeks ago, probably both, about death triggers for commanders. So now when your commander dies, you actually get the death triggers. Your commander temporarily goes into the graveyard before you decide what zone you would want the commander to be. Or no, you decide what zone you want the commander to be in. It still hits the graveyard for a moment. So Roalesk Apex Hybrid. Why does this guy care about death triggers? So for 2 green, blue, you get a 4/5 human mutant. That's right. You cannot mutate onto this human mutant because he's a human. But he's going to get a 4/5 flying trample. So already that's actually pretty good when it comes to like trying to go in for commander damage. But he's got 2 more giant chunks of text here. So when Roalesk Apex Hybrid enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control. And then the last ability is the one we really, really care about in this deck, and that's when Roalesk dies, proliferate, then proliferate again. So you might know about a legendary creature in, I don't know, maybe the colors Witchmaw or something that really likes proliferate. It's like an angel horror. Really looks like a praetor mostly. It's got flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink.
What does it rhyme with?
Badraxa. the Braider's choice.
We're really good at this rhyming thing. We hope you all love that.
So if you have a friend that has an Atraxa deck, there is a good chance that Atraxa deck is a Super Friends deck or a Planeswalker deck, and you better believe I made a Simic Planeswalker deck, because you know what my 2 favorite cards are in a Planeswalker deck?
They are Doubling Season and Deep Glow Skate.
And what colors are those?
Blue and green.
Woo, we got there. So we only got to play 2 colors to play arguably the 2 most broken cards in Planeswalker decks. So Doubling Season is 4 and a green. It's an enchantment that says, if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead, which you might think isn't relevant in Planeswalkers, but we do run Jace Cunning Castaway, which makes token copies of himself. But the second ability, if an effect would put 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many of those counters on that permanent instead. So when your Planeswalker enters the battlefield, it actually it doesn't enter with the counters. It enters and then you put the counters on it. So you'll actually end up putting double the counters on it with a Doubling Season, allowing you to potentially ultimate your Planeswalker the turn that it comes out. Deep Glow Skate is a creature for 4 and a blue, and it's basically doing what Doubling Season does, but only once. So when it enters the battlefield, you double the number of counters on any number of target permanents. So again, we're trying to just ultimate our Planeswalkers as fast as possible. I do want to go over some of the synergy and the mana base around it that kind of just helps to have Roalesk as the commander. And Andy, I know you are very familiar with these cards because they're in your Voral deck. So we run Astral Cornucopia, XXX. You put X charge counters on it, where X is what you paid into it. And you can tap it, choose a color, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia. We're also running Everflowing Chalice, which is a multi-kicker where every time you kick it, you put a charge counter on it, taps for a colorless for each charge counter. So we're going to continue to proliferate so that we can get more and more of these counters. I'm not sure if you run this one in your deck because I think this is much better in a Roalesk deck. I guess the main difference between Voral and Roalesk I see is Roalesk likes it if something has 1 counter on it. Voral wants something with like 10 counters so it can make it 20. Where Roalesk is 1, it goes, oh, I can make that 3. That's pretty cool. Coalition Relic. So Coalition Relic is a 3-mana artifact that says tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or tap it to put a charge counter on it. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, remove all charge counters from Coalition Relic and add 1 mana to your mana pool for each of any color of your choice for each charge counter removed from Coalition Relic. So this can potentially get you 3 free mana if your Roalesk dies at some point during the round before your turn.
Yeah, it's not played in Roalesk. That 1 becomes 2 for tapping my commander and paying 2 mana into it. So that's a lot of mana.
Yeah, I just got to kill my commander.
I mean, that's a big cost too. So
it is. However, if you know me, you know I love playing commanders where I can just kill them. So I play artifacts such as Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar in this deck so that I can kill my commander myself in case no one else will for me. Ashnod's Altar, you can sacrifice a creature to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. Phyrexian Altar, you can sacrifice a creature to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So those are going to help us kill our commander. We're going to run the Chain Veil to really take advantage of all of our Planeswalkers. We're going to run the Sword of Sword of Truth and Justice. because it gives pro blue and pro white.
Oh, that's a sad sword.
However,
probably not the strongest in Commander, to be fair, though, only because the amount of blue and white creatures played is a lot lower, I would say, than like green, red, and black.
True. This does get
from what we see in our metagame.
This does get around spot removal. Yeah. It does not get around board wipes because they don't target. So you do have to be a little bit careful there. But Sword of Truth and Justice, it gives equipped creature +2/+2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, and then you proliferate. So every time we swing with our flying trample Roalesk, hopefully we're going to get in for damage and proliferate. We are playing a couple payoff creatures as well, such as Bioessence Hydra, which is a 4/4 for 3 green and a blue, it has trample, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each loyalty counter on a planeswalker you control. And whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on a planeswalker you control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Bioessence Hydra. So our planeswalkers are going to help us control the game, and Bioessence Hydra is going to help us close out the game. And if worse comes to worse, we are also playing Sage of Hours, which we're going to try to manipulate by putting a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it. Because it has this ability. It says remove all +1/+1 counters from Sage of Hours. For each 5 counters removed this way, take an extra turn after this one.
Hey, I run that.
You do. This one's good because you get to take extra turns. How about this other card? 1 in a blue. It's got level up.
Was it a Lighthouse Chronologist?
It is a Lighthouse Chronologist. So you have to level him up. So if you don't know what level up is, you pay mana of whatever the level up cost is to gain a level, and you get different abilities or power and toughness on this creature at different thresholds of level up. So for Lighthouse Chronologist, you pay 1 blue to level him up. Once he is at level 7 at the beginning of each end step, if it is not your turn, you take an extra turn after this one.
So it's a prime target.
Mm-hmm.
You have to explain when you're putting +1/+1 counters versus level up counters,
You
because
sure
I
do.
did play a game on stream last week and everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's already at 6. It's good. I was like, nope, these are +1/+1 counters. I need to pay 7 whole mana into this to get to the other. And they're like, oh, okay. But I have made that happen once, and I got 2 extra turns, and I did win the game, but I do feel that someone misplayed, and I should have still lost.
Fair enough. We are going to play Evolution Sage, which is a 2 and a green landfall proliferate creature. We're going to play Flux Channeler, which is 2 and a blue 2/2 whenever you cast a non-creature spell proliferate. We're going to play Toothy and Peer so that we can get extra counters on everything. We're playing Spark Double so that we can double any creature we want, including Roalesk or our Planeswalker that we control. And we're going to play Fathom Mage just because I want to draw my entire deck. Every time a +1/+1 counter would be put on Fathom Mage, you draw a card. It's an evolve creature with 1/1. We don't really care about the evolve. Once we get Roalesk out there, get 1 counter on Fathom Mage, we're just going to start proliferating and drawing. So, you may have noticed that I have not mentioned 1 Planeswalker yet.
Which one? Hold on. There's a bunch that I don't want to see, but
So-
they're real good.
I play 29 Planeswalkers in the deck. The worst one that you're going to see put on the board is probably going to be brand new M21 reprint Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
It's okay.
It's
not bad. I honestly would rather play against an Ugin that can wipe the board, but then you can deal with it than play against the ultimated mono blue Teferi that you're going to be able to activate your Planeswalkers every turn.
Yeah, that one's going to be real good. Teferi Temporal Archmage, 4 blue. His emblem, which is at 10, which he starts with 5 loyalty. So if you do Deep Glow Skate or Doubling Season, you can do it the turn that he comes out. You get an emblem that says you can activate Planeswalker abilities on anyone's turn as if the ability had flash.
Is that what it says? As though it has flash?
Anytime you could cast an instant.
Yes, you can do it just on every turn.
I don't think you can do it I think it's still limited to once per round.
I don't think so.
Maybe it is once per turn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you can do it, you can do it. That was the benefit of it. I
guess that's what the new Teferi does, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's gross.
So yeah, that one's going to be good. We're going to play Will Kenrith. We cannot play Will's sister Rowan, unfortunately. But Will Kenrith does... like Planeswalkers, it has an ability that makes Planeswalker spells cost 2 less. until your next turn at a -2, so that's going to help us get everything out. We're playing Nissa, Steward of Elements, because we want to play a Simic commander that isn't Kiora, and that's literally the only reason why. But we're also going to play Oko because we're mean.
I don't think Oko's mean.
You're going to think it's mean when I turn your commander into a 3/3 elk without abilities.
I don't know. We'll see.
With how we build decks.
Sure.
I mean, if in your Reanimator deck with Teysa, or not Reanimator with Teysa, Teysa's death triggers matters, you're going to have sacrifice outlets. You're going to be able to get around it. Yeah. But some decks won't be able to.
Some decks will have a problem with things becoming an elk.
We're going to play Garooks to get creatures. We're going to play Jaces to get cards. Potentially
to show shoulders.
Potentially counter the first spell that any player tries to play on their turn.
I thought that was that was the Jace. That was the problem one.
Jace Unraveler of Secrets is probably the problem one. So that's at -8. You get an emblem with whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, counter that spell.
Honestly, I feel like I've gotten that one time, and the game ended because of it. But for the most part, I'm usually just is that scry 1 draw a card, the Jace?
Yeah, scry 1 draw a card on a +1 with a starting loyalty of 5 for 5 mana. It's actually very, very good.
It is.
-2 is unsummon. You return target creature to its owner's hand. It's
an instant speed if you've got that Teferi.
Yeah, that's right.
Emblem.
So I don't actually play any tutors in the deck, so everything will have to come naturally, but I think there's enough card draw in the deck just inherently in blue planeswalkers that the deck's gonna come out fine. I don't think it's too broken, but we'll see. I do play the Ozolith in here. I don't have a ton of creatures for it, so we'll see what happens with that, if it's good, if it's bad. Shout out to Sword of the Myriad, because getting 3 Roalesk to enter the battlefield to put, 2 extra Roalesk to enter the battlefield. Sword of the Myriad is an equipment that gives equipped creature Myriad, which means when it attacks, you put a copy of that creature tapped and attacking each player in the game. But since Roalesk is legendary, you have to sacrifice 2 of the copies. So you get to put 4 +1/+1 counters on your Roalesk that's swinging and probably isn't being blocked.
Blade of Selves, right?
Blade of Selves. Sorry, what did I say?
Sword of the Myriad. And I was like, that's not right.
That's not correct.
That's not it.
No, it is Blade of Selves. You are correct.
I mean, if you want to call it Sword of the Myriad, that's really what it does. Sort of, and it gives things Myriad.
Yeah.
But in case you're wondering what card we're talking about.
It's Sword of the
Myriad.
Blade
of Selves.
So yeah, when that happens and you get Roalesk out there, it is important to know how the triggers are going to stack, because the 2 will enter the battlefield and the trigger goes on the stack and then die, and the die triggers go on the stack. So unfortunately, the 4 +1/+1 counters you're putting on a creature are not going to see the quadruple proliferate that you're going to get from your 2 copies of Roalesk dying. However, you're going to get to quadruple proliferate, so who cares?
Yeah.
Other than that, we're looking at a pretty generic ramp. Nothing too special in the land base. We're running some depletion counter lands just out of some extra spice.
Nice.
And that's about it.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to lose to it. I do think that after looking at the deck list, and I feel like I built Vorl very conservatively, just because I was trying to win gimmicky wise, but I could probably up that a little bit.
Sure.
I think I won. The only time I've ever won is in a 1v1 game. I've never won a multiplayer game yet with that.
So we're going to have to play some 2-on-2 commander with the Guardian Project as one lead. Mm-hmm. And if you want to come at us, you got to bring a pair of commanders to play us.
A pair of 2, not a pair of 4 like we did earlier.
You could do. I mean, I guess if it's like 2 people with partners, but you got to come up with some sort of story on why your 2 commanders are together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we'll do a show match. Bring it on.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for listening. If you want to contact us, you can find us on Twitter at GuardianPod. You can find me on Twitter at ATFlory.
You can find me on Twitter at WormCoilEngine.
And then take a look for hashtag Guardian Project Pod to find our posts and episodes. And you can email us at guardianprojectpod@gmail.com. And if you're on Discord, let us know. Come join. We are right now, everybody can join the Discord for free because we're all still at home. After that, it'll go back to just being a Patreon benefit. Mm-hmm. But we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, come chill. Even if you're not, looking to play Magic, there's always people talking. Maybe you want to pick up a game of Valorant or League of Legends or something like that.
There is a lot of that happening. Yeah.
So.
I don't play it, but I read all the words and I see all the conversations that I don't understand.
Yeah, the one thing I don't see anymore is people out talking about turnip prices in there.
Oh, turnip prices are not that. I think it's after I stopped and then was like, who's got the turnip prices?
It's still the first thing I ask in every single game of League of Legends that I play. All chat, who's got good turnip prices?
Are you still playing
League of Legends?
No. Animal Crossing.
I have not.
I haven't turned the game on in like 5 weeks.
I haven't turned the game on in I think 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Sad life. Just kidding. Playing more Magic.
That's true, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.